The ghostly Gloucestershire team are here outside the Everyman Theatre in Cheltenham. A caretaker who has worked here has reported that there's been a piano playing by itself. Ghostly Gloucestershire aims to look at the paranormal activity here in one of the most haunted counties in the United Kingdom. So here we are in Prestbury, outside the Plough Inn, and today we're going to be talking to Kathy, the landlady, so she can tell us more about the paranormal experiences she's had over the years. So come on in.
Well, we're not entirely sure. It's listed as being a late 17th century. 2.5 years ago, it was a lovely summer's day, or summer's evening rather, and we had a customer sitting just over there at the little round table. Everybody else was outside. Her boyfriend went to the loo, and she was just sitting there like that, and she felt somebody sit down next to her, and she said, "Oh, you were quick," and she looked over, and there was a man sitting next to her that she didn't know, and she sort of did a double take, and then she looked back and he disappeared. Yes, as I say, we've had 5 overnight groups here, so they usually bring 1 or 2 mediums with them. We wait till the pub is shut. Normally they walk round the village first because it's one of the most haunted villages in the country, and I think there's 55 reported ghosts here, some of which are in the churchyard just over there. They usually come, they set up equipment, some of them have lasers, which, if you know, a laser has a steady light, so they have that all over the room, and if something, a shadow goes across it, you'll be able to spot it. They have listening equipment, a lot of them wear headphones so they can pick up any really, really quiet sounds. Some of them have crystals, Ouija boards, all sorts of bits and bobs that I don't know how they work. And there's sort of this electrical system that they have, and when there's activity it changes colour from green to orange to red. I am not fazed by any of the things that are in here, except for a little while ago in the room upstairs. I had some pictures that used to be down here, and I had them stacked up in a corner. And every time we had the mediums go upstairs, they always went to the same corner. And they said to me that it's not a person, it's a thing. Now, at the time, I never used the living room above this room here because it felt strange. But I brought those pictures downstairs now and put them back where they should be, and now that room's fine. That's the only thing that's all been a bit worrying up there. And we did have, my ex-business partner and I both had an experience where we were trying to shut the back door just there. And the door normally swings to with no problem at all. And it was the end of the day, I was the only person here. I went to shut the door and it felt like somebody was pushing, trying to get in. Now you really want to sort of pull it and then push it back in again, but I was sort of like this, trying to get the door shut. And that's the only thing that's really frightened me a little bit. Things started to happen. I had a business partner when I first took over here, and he was always a bit of a practical joker, and I think sometimes whatever was here was a bit protective of me, so every now and again a pen would get lobbed at him. Or once we were standing by the till and he just had a hammer in his hand and he was just waving it around like this, and it was sort of jokingly went like that at me. And then the light bulb above his hat just exploded and covered him in glass. You know, so it's funny little things like that. We went through a stage of 2p pieces being thrown out of the till whenever you went anywhere near the till. They'd just pop out.
As part of our investigation, we have asked you, the general public, about the experiences you've had with the supernatural. Here are Jamie and Sadie with their stories.
When my mum was about 21, she moved into her first ever house, and outside her house she had a massive tree which blocked all the light from coming into her house, so she got permission to cut down some of the branches. So one morning she woke up really early and she got a ladder and she was cutting down these branches, and as she was doing it, a really old man came and walked right by her, like, front garden. She started chatting to her and introduced himself to her as Terry Jones, I think his name was, and was just chatting to her about the people that lived there before and how nice the house is. And he said that he just lived opposite her and pointed at the house opposite. And my mum was like, oh, lovely, I'll come and visit you. And all she wanted to do was carry on cutting her branches. Anyway, he just stayed, he was chatting to her, and then eventually he walked off. And my mum carried on cutting her branches. And another lady walked up to her and was just like, oh, hi, are you new to the neighbourhood? She was like, yes. And she was like, could I just ask who you were talking to? And she said, I was talking to the gentleman, Terry, who lives across the road. And the lady said, yeah, there was a Terry who lived across the road, but he died 10 years ago.
When I was just 10 years old, I lived in a little hamlet village, just full of a few houses. And one day, me and my little sister were playing a little game in the living room. And it was night time, and all my family were upstairs just talking and stuff. And I remember playing the game with my little sister, and I remember I looked at her because she started looking at the window, and I wondered what she was looking at. So then I started to look, and the first thing I saw was a pale white figure of a man just standing there. And at first I thought he was our neighbour or something. But then I just looked at his whole body, and not only was his face pale, but his whole body was just white. And I couldn't believe it. And I looked at my sister, and I remember she looked at me, and we both screamed, and we were so scared, and we decided to run upstairs, get my family. And the family run downstairs, and next minute, there was no one at the window. It was just gone, the person we saw, and we couldn't believe it. But my family thought it was just probably a reflection from something inside the room, but we didn't know. And a few days later, me and my sister were playing out in the garden, and my dad started speaking to our neighbour, and I remember overhearing this. And the neighbour had said that we must have been able to get the house really cheap because of the suicide that happened there. And my dad didn't know about this, and he was like, suicide? And apparently the neighbour told us that the previous owner of the house had shot himself in the garden. It was an old man. And we couldn't believe this when we were little, but that seemed to have happened.
My boyfriend lives in a fairly old house, and apparently the first person who owned his house died in the master bedroom, which is now his parents' bedroom. So one night I was staying at his house, and I got up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet, which is on the landing. And his attic opening is in the toilet. And as I walked in, I saw that the hatch was down for the opening of the attic. I thought, this is quite strange because there's a lock. So anyway, I went back into his room and I woke him up, and he closed he locked it back up and said, everything's fine, don't worry. And as he got back into bed and went to turn off his bedside light, which he turned on when he got up, the bulb shattered and glass went absolutely everywhere, all over the bed, all over the floor, everywhere. And as he went to go and clean it up, music started playing from his phone, which was on the other side of the room charging, which was quite bizarre. Anyway, the next day we woke up and we went to go shopping in town, and I distinctly remember turning off his TV as I left the TV in his bedroom, as I left his bedroom. And then we got a call from his sister saying, why did you leave your TV on? And it was on, and there was the static was on it, which was quite scary.
From our visit to Prestbury, we have found out why Gloucestershire has been labelled one of the most haunted. Due to the sightings and learning more about the histories from the locals, we can now say Gloucestershire has been rated one of the most haunted counties in the UK.